We have been going really slow on that session. That was apparently more interesting than we thought it would be.
Ooh, okay.
So we're going to move on to how to fail like John McClane real fast. So one of the most important things to know is that everybody who plays a game wants to win. Even if it's a collaborative game, you always want your character to be the hero. You always want that spotlight. You never want to feel like the game is leaving you behind. But think of it this way. If you fail, that's not the end. You're generally speaking, if you're playing with nice people, they're not going to say, "Oh wow, you failed that critical dice roll. Get out."
I haven't done that yet.
But you think of it as the establishing shot. Heroes never win in the first act. Never. Any comic book, the first issue, Spider-Man gets the snot kicked out of him by the Green Goblin, but in issue 6, now he wins. Die Hard is a great example of it. Within the first 40 minutes of that movie, John McClane gets shot at, he gets blown up, he thinks his wife is going to leave him once and for all. Everything that could go wrong for a guy who just wanted to spend Christmas with his family has gone wrong.
Yeah. And you need that area for a character to grow. I mean, look at any big epic movie. I'm going to use the Lord of the Rings or even The Hobbit. Look at your characters. Like, Bilbo does not start off as a mean green, short ass-kicking machine, right? Or even Frodo. Like, these characters have a lot of room to grow because they're starting out from nothing. It would be so much less interesting if Bilbo actually just happened to be the most powerful knight in the land, dressed in armor with a big magic sword, and he just rode into Mordor and threw the ring in. That's not a story, that's
Not
Monday.
that everybody doesn't want to have that moment, but you got to earn that moment,
Definitely.
right? In order for it to be entertaining.
And that's the interesting part, is building up, the earning of that moment.
How many people watch sports movies? Baseball movies, basketball movies, just some, yeah.
Mighty Ducks?
Okay, there's
Anybody?
some reluctant
there we
hands.
go.
Okay. If you want to win against the evil team at the end of the movie, you have to suck at the beginning of the movie, or it's no fun.
You have to change jerseys halfway through and be a better team.
Yeah.
You also see it in every fight scene in every movie ever made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The guy's fighting, he's getting his ass handed to him, and then suddenly he wins at the end, right? So it's just that classic story structure of building up towards earning the victory. The struggle is where the fun in the story is.
Rocky. Everybody has to be Rocky. You have to run up those stairs long enough until you're able to win the fight.
So now, that all said, we're going to come back to collaboration and theme, because different kinds of failure are appropriate in different kinds of story. If the Mighty Ducks started off with everybody getting shot at and blown up, that would be a very different movie. So you fail differently if you're John McClane than if you're Jack Sparrow. That's sort of the bottom line here. They both have fun failing, but they do it in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if John McClane had fun.
Okay, the audience has fun.
Hey, he was laughing. He got the machine gun and he said, "Ha ha," you know. he had some. Oh ho ho. Sorry.
Yeah.
And it just becomes like. Okay. No, it's again back to tone, like we talked about, or theme of your game. The slapstick failure is your character drives off a cliff in a limo that's also has a rocket thrown at it. It blows up. You know,
That's Act 3 of Hudson Hawk.
Hudson Hawk. Yeah. Yeah, no one knows what I'm talking about. That's what. Oh! All right, never mind. Apparently, we're all about Bruce Willis at this panel too. Like, we've all got man crushes going on. Yeah.
That's why you shaved your head, isn't it?
Well, yeah. There's a corollary to this is that GM failure, which is to say player success, should also be meaningful. Mm-hmm. When your villains do ultimately fall, or even if they get a minor setback, take the opportunity to choose scenery and make the players care, because then they feel like they've earned it.
Yeah, and that's a really good, that word too is really good, meaningful. Failures should be meaningful. How many people have rolled up a first level character and tripped going down an icy flight of stairs? Or your character who should be competent, who should at least be competent, they've survived to the age of 18 to 20, will fail at meaningless tasks. I want to climb over this waist-high fence. You trip, fall, and you break your arm.
Yeah, and that ties into yes and, right? Because if the player's going to do something that's appropriate to the story you're telling, just say yes. Like, why are we wasting our time and wasting everybody's energy on, roll a jump over the fence? Like, why? The fight's over there.
And it becomes, you see this in like text too. If you ever run a boxed adventure, which we won't really recommend, but we're not going to trash it, you will see things where they're like, all right, make your characters roll to do meaningless tasks. there's no purpose to that.
Yeah, the classic example of that too is clue investigation, like finding something in a scene. Search checks are, in my opinion, one of the banes of modern role-playing games. Because if you fail that search check, game over.
Yeah.
Everybody goes home now. You didn't find the
You didn't
one
find the clue, sorry.
Yeah, if your characters did not roll a high enough, a 20, to find that hidden door that leads to the rest of the dungeon, well, then they're done. They're like, well, this dungeon sucked. Let's go back to the bar and beat up that old guy with the eye patch.
And your story stops.
Yeah, it's over.
Because you planned this whole dungeon, this whole awesome thing that they never found.
And likely that won't happen at your game, obviously, but then you're having to backtrack. You're having to be like, crap, how do I... screw it, the door just opens. So the wind catches it and the door opens. There's the rest of the dungeon. And you feel pretty lame. And everyone there is kind of probably thinking you're pretty lame.
And that ties into knowing what the consequences are. So if you make them roll and they fail, and you're like, oh no, the story is going nowhere if they fail. They didn't find the secret entrance. You can say, make a little note, failure. They find the secret entrance, but now there's a consequence. Maybe something happens. You don't even have to know what it is right then and there. But consequences of that failed die roll can
You offset them for later.
yes,
Yeah.
I was going to say snowball. They can build and cascade into something later.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't get as much experience for the adventure. Maybe they don't get the gold. Maybe they don't rescue the princess in time, or whatever, right?
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we...
The other thing we talk about with rolling too is just we talk about resources a lot of the time, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. But because I'm a father of two, I don't have a lot of time to game. So for me, when I'm sitting playing with other players, and somebody makes me roll for every little thing, do everything, it slows the game down. And I want to hear the story. I want the story to be told. So that's why we find roll if there's a contestant. If there's a contest, whether it should succeed or not, but if it moves the story forward, let it move the story forward. Don't waste people's time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And stopping the story and killing characters are the most common stakes. Those are the things that always seem to be on the table, especially in combat-heavy games. Dungeons & Dragons, again, we're not ragging on it. It's just a really good example because most of you have played
People are
it.
familiar with
It's
it.
the most popular example.
And
Yeah.
so if you're fighting, your consequences for a fight most of the time are death. You win or you die. It's the Game of Thrones over and over and over again. So something else that GMs should be thinking about and can come from the players is other things you can lose. Do you guys want to?
Yeah, like other things you can lose. I mean, again, when you're building a story detailed game, your characters should have something to them more than just their, I've got a sword and I want treasure.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all you want, but okay, maybe they want treasure to build status or respect. Maybe they're trying to rescue their poor family or something like that. You can lose relationships and rank and respect. You can lose the treasure. You can lose all kinds of things. That is not necessarily your character's life, right?
And one way to make characters invested in that sort of thing is to offer them as rewards. Because I think most people are, when you play a game, you're motivated by what's mechanically there. More treasure to buy better loot, and experience points so you can have more cool powers. But if you, as the game master, right up front say, there's a pretty good chance one of you is going to end up with like a knighthood and a little manor of your own and all the wealth you could ever dream of, more than you could ever get by adventuring. But then, as consequences, you start to like make it much harder to get that. Maybe by failing a certain dramatic action, they now are no longer in favor with the king, who is going to grant them all of that cool stuff.
Well, we mentioned this too, in that in games like that, and it seems to be every player's stance, is you either fight or die. And one thing that we wanted to just touch on a little bit is you can also run away. And I know a lot of people are like, run away, heroes never run away.
Sacrilege.
Spider-Man runs away all the time.
It's gonna win.
He really is. Doc Ock or Venom is just pounding the crap out of him, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to die. I need to get out of here. Running away is an option, but it's something that as a GM you need to make evident to them too.
Clear that that's an option.
Because honestly, in the player's mind, and this has been set up through a lot of stuff, your GM's not going to throw anything at you that you can't handle, right? He's not just going to, well, if he's a good GM, he's not just going to purposefully kill your characters in an unwinnable fight. So that needs to be set up, and sometimes it should just be discussed even at the beginning of the game, just a statement that, guys, just so you know, you may have to run away in this game.
Again, roll wisdom.
Yeah.
roll. You know, like,
Wisdom rolls and intelligence rolls are beautiful things. You know, a lot of people never use them beyond the skills. We use them all the time just for don't be dumb.
Or, you know what, I need to tell you something about the story that I can't just straight up tell you, but I can give your character a hint by letting your character figure something out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your character is smart enough to know these things. And that backfires sometimes. So we'll get players, or will be players, who have an 8 wisdom. And it's like, I don't know anything. So I'm totally going to run into that burning room and try and punch the fire demon. Because why not?
The advantage of that, though, is that if it's been established now as a table fact, oh, my character is too dumb to know whatever it is you're trying to warn me about, then it actually becomes part of the story to run in there and do that incredibly foolish thing, and your friends have to go in and drag you bodily out because you're dumb, and that's a table fact, and now that's part of the game.
Who had the elf who had
Joey.
handles put on his backpack so that you could drag him out of combat?
Yeah.